Hi there, and welcome to episode 2 of the AsianTalks podcast series. Elizabeth Shim with you here. China's a country that's constantly making headlines, but author Alan Paul and filmmaker Michael Ouyang have taken their writing careers to new levels by seeing in China a source of inspiration, whether that's to write memoirs, make films, or play in cross-cultural bands. Here's just an excerpt from our conversation with two creatives who have played music in Shanghai and Beijing. I know both of you were in bands or are in bands. Sorry, I think Alan, you started a new band.
That's right.
And so both of you understand the power of music to communicate across cultures. What function do you think music plays in your lives, and especially your lives as they were or are in China? What function does that music play that language cannot or culture cannot?
Yeah, I don't know that I can say that it ends up. I think it sort of becomes a non-cultural thing in a certain. I mean, it's always cultural to the extent that like the music that I know how to play is either classical music, so basically European classical music, or American popular forms of music that like blues or jazz or rock. The best thing about communicating through music for me is that you in a lot of senses you just sort of turn your brain goes off. It's like a different part of your brain is working on that communication or processing what's going on or whatever, and it's about or for me at any rate, less about culture and more about just a bunch of people being in sync with each other rhythmically.
Alan, do you have anything?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, hopefully a big part of my book, what I was trying to convey was just the power of music. The first level of it for me was simply in bringing me together with my Chinese bandmates and breaking down barriers. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have related to those guys and done what I did like in my first 6 months or year in China. I started meeting them during my second year when I was more comfortable and more confident of myself there. So the first level was just relating with them, and the second level was relating to the audience. And people ask me all the time, do Chinese people like blues? Because we were, primarily a blues band. And I always say, well, they like us. And I don't mean that just to be flip. Part of what I think people were drawn to was the fact that we were very, very collaborative. And I think that the way that we related to each other was very much as a band of equals and not of one person setting the rules and playing and everyone following behind. And I think the way we interacted was a bit different than what people were used to. There wasn't a big tradition of that type of music. And so even if people didn't intellectually understand that, I think they could sense there was something a little bit different.
Michael, do you have anything to add?
I mean, not really. I mean, I'm really happy with the particular group of people I'm playing with now. I finally found a drummer who knows how to improvise, which has been like a really big struggle. That's been like a little bit of a struggle because finding people who know how to play, can play some drums is not that, it's not necessarily more difficult than anywhere else, but it's, finding people who are willing to, as Alan says, be collaborative and listen to each other and be, and be able to go in the moment to go from, to change genres from, a funk beat to a reggae beat to the sort of, jazz riding on the hi-hat kind of thing, riding on the ride kind of thing. Or, that kind of thing has been really difficult. And the guy that I actually ended up finding is a mainland Chinese guy who's just, really awesome. and a lot of the other Chinese drummers that I've been playing with are pretty straight ahead guys. And if anything happens in the song that's like not the way the song's supposed to go, they sort of have problems with it.
Well, I'm just curious, did he have experience doing that before, or was he just able to roll with it once he experienced it?
I don't know how much experience he had with it before. I think not very much, but the sort of the way that I and the bass player, we've known each other for a little while beforehand. And the way we sort of go about it is we just, a lot of times we'll just be like, let's play in a weird key. Let's play in a key we don't normally play in because, just to see if anything interesting comes out of it. So call it like, we'll play in B flat minor. And we'll just sort of go. And something will come out of it. And this guy's just been really open to the idea of like, we all listen to each other and we trust the process that it's going to go someplace.
Right. No, it was one of the guys that I was playing with were really, just fantastic musicians, a step above me, really. And it took me a while to realize that I was teaching them stuff also. And it was thrilling to me when I realized that. And being part of the process of discovery with them, of them discovering a new way to play music, was just awesome. And they loved it. And the whole idea that they learned that, as Lou, a drummer, said to me, it was a new concept to him that, music could be emotional and different every night, even if you're playing the same song in the same club that you played in, recently. Yeah. You just do it differently, because I always said that to him: if you're happy, play happy. If you're sad, play sad. If you're frustrated, play angry. Play frustrated. Yeah. If you're confused, play confused. I mean, that stuff to me was really quite natural. So to realize that it wasn't for them, and to help them get there, and not by like instructing them, but just by doing it. Once I kind of tuned into that dynamic, was really exciting and just a thrill for me.
Do you have questions for each other, though? And
no. I just, the only question for you is where I'd love to see some of your work, or even hear some of your music. Is there an easy way to do that?
Yeah, if you go to my website, there's some stuff up on there, and also my new the film that I just had in a film festival. I put it on the internet. I made it public on the internet, so it's available on Vimeo.
Yeah, I read the description of the film. It sounds really cool. We'll definitely enjoy checking it out.
Yeah, well, it was a fun thing to do. It was fun because the major, it was just, me and a bunch of friends. So we filmed it for nothing. The major cost in it was the cost of the miniature pig, which, as it turns out, you can order them on Taobao.
You get anything on Taobao.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can get on Taobao. In terms of the rest of it, for my new band, we haven't even gigged yet. But the last time that we were, and then I'm constantly having to run off and shoot things, so who knows when we're going to be able to get around to that. But it was a good situation. Like, we had an encouraging thing happen the other week. We were rehearsing, and apparently a manager for some club in Shanghai was walking by the rehearsal room and heard us, and stuck her head in the door and gave her card to our drummer. And was like, whenever you guys want to play. So that was encouraging. It's nice to get that kind of positive feedback.
Sometimes confidence just pushes you further too, though.
Yeah, and the truth of the matter is, we're never going to you don't become gig worthy by playing in a rehearsal room.
Right. No, sometimes one gig is worth 10 rehearsals.
Yeah, you just got to go do it. I've been Alan, you're in New York now, though, right? You're not in China anymore?
Yeah.
A friend of mine, she runs a jam session Monday nights at Yuyuntang in Shanghai. So I was just going to say, if you're ever in Shanghai, you should drop by that. Because if I'm around, I go there too. And it can be a lot of fun. Last time I was there, they had a jazz saxophonist up there who also had a huge pedal board, and he wanted to play jazz standards, which was fine, except for the fact for everybody else it was fine, except for me, because I don't know those songs. Right. There's being like, let's play Miles Davis's "So What," and I'm like, okay. Do you have a chart for it? He's like, yeah, you don't need a chart. It's 16 bars of D minor, followed by 8 bars of whatever's next in it, C minor or something like that, and then it goes back to another 8 bars of that. But then those 8 bars go into 16 bars, so it's like 24 bars. And by the time he finished saying that whole thing, I was like, I have no idea. You just play it. It's interesting to get challenged that way too.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and there's a lot of great musicians. And I had some great, crazy jam sessions. I was at the CD Jazz Cafe in Beijing with the jazz orchestra, and end up really sort of over my head, but you sometimes grow in those situations. It's a little bit of a crash or burn, and one of the great things in Beijing and in Shanghai too, I think, is really you can end up with a Chinese rhythm section and a Russian trombone player and a American guitarist and whatever. It's all over the place, and that's also fun.
I know there's a rivalry between Beijing and Shanghai, and both of you as insiders, could you provide some perspective on that, or is that just some urban legend?
Yeah, Beijing sucks.
I never personally got too caught up in it. I thought as an expat community, from my limited experience, I felt it was easier to find interesting people in Beijing just because there were people all over the map.
Also, your band wrote a song, I don't remember the exact title, but it was about Shanghai girls. Is that correct, Alan?
Yeah, well, I had one in particular in mind when I wrote that. It's just, I was playing on stereotypes a little bit. Really, really impressive batch of women, Shanghaiese women, so I don't want to say anything negative about them. They were some of the most impressive batch of Chinese that I've ever met, so...
Right, because the stereotype is so widespread, at least in China, that they're just, it's hard to tell if they're true because everybody thinks it's true, or if it's true because it's really just that way. But I will say that if you're an expat and you're in Beijing, you'll probably learn more Chinese than you will in Shanghai.
For me, in my lifestyle, I mean, being there with 3 children and going to international schools, we were able to live in one of these villa compounds and be still pretty close to town and go into, Beijing all the time into the city and live in both worlds. And just geographically, it's a little bit harder to do that in Shanghai because people end up living in Pudong. That's where a lot of the schools are, and that place out there is just really an expat ghetto, and there's nothing quite like that in Beijing. So I guess that was what I was really directly comparing it to, because we lived sort of in that Beijing version of that, and it just was not nearly as isolated.